Today we're talking about the 5 types of people that cannot stand the INFJ. As an INFJ, you've experienced this all your life. There are people who do not like you, and there isn't anything you can do about it. Most of the time, we have learned to duck down, to dim our light. We're trying just not to be as obvious in so many cases because we think, okay, if I'm not rocking the boat, I'm not going to draw in people who dislike me. But the truth is that people are going to dislike you. The question is, though, are they really that many? And can we actually categorize what kind of people don't like the INFJ to begin with? Because once you understand why people dislike you, you actually turn it all around. And in the end, you don't even care about it. So today, I can look at all those people that do not like me, and I'm not even aware of them because they're not in my life anymore. They're probably here and there, and they're still thinking those things, but I'm not aware of it. And I actually am drawing in these kind of people less and less. And it's like a complete contrast to when I was completely focused on it. So today we're really going to look into the 5 types of people that cannot stand the INFJ, why they cannot stand the INFJ, and what our lessons are from all of that. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you haven't done this so far, to download the free poster on the INFJ Epic Life formula. And if you say, now is my time to start my INFJ Epic Life journey, then get the INFJ Epic Life audio guide today. Everything you need to know you can find in the links in the description. Type number 1, the bully. So on the one hand, you might say, okay, I as an INFJ have been bullied more often than most people. Yes, probably. But that's exactly the reason why bullies don't like us. Because on the one hand, yes, we're drawing them in. But on the other hand, we've experienced this since early childhood on. So we have been confronted with bullies all our life, just by the mere fact that we are different, that we act in a different way, and particularly as children, we haven't really learned how to tone ourselves down. We're being more of ourselves, and actually through bullies and other kinds of people and circumstances, we make ourselves into this mold. But because of that, we have, understood why bullies are targeting us. We've experienced how it feels to be bullied. And so by the time we're an adult, this actually doesn't affect us so much because we've seen it all, we've done it all, we've worked through it. And nowadays, bullies can't really reach us because every single bully is trying to push some kind of button of yours. They're trying to push you down. They're trying to pull you down to their level. And if you look at adult bullies, you'll see that most of the people they target are people who've probably not experienced bullying growing up. It's actually nowadays that some power dynamics have shifted and, other people become victims of bullies. The INFJ is the typical person the bully cannot stand because the INFJ is just not susceptible to that. So bullies altogether really dislike INFJs, but to such an extent that they don't even want them around because they're just not giving them enough feedback to keep on bullying the INFJ. It's actually even the INFJ who stands up for others who are being bullied so often because we have learned how it feels to be bullied. We have known all of the pain that comes with it, and we've also learned how to deal with it very often. And so we know how to hit back, we know how to make bullies shut up, and that's even one more reason why bullies don't like us. We're just not the kind of person who's not only, looking the other way, but we're also the person who's saying, you're going to stop this or it's not going to feel good for you. The second type of person that dislikes the INFJ is the popularity-driven person because that person is really aware of social hierarchies and that's the one thing they want to do. They're social climbers and that in itself doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? But the point is that these kind of people need to live in a hierarchy. They need to be the ones who say there are people below me, there are people who are above me, I play a certain role within that cluster, and I want to climb that ladder. That's what I'm here to do. So every single person who comes into their life is being checked on where do they fit in? How can I, categorize them? Is this somebody who's going to look up to me or is this somebody that I have to look up to? And then the INFJ comes along who doesn't play those games at all. So this is the typical Sigma part of our personality. We just don't play those games. And although we can respect it as in, I know this is your journey, you do your thing, but the fact that we don't have any chips in the game, the fact that we're are so nonchalant about it is exactly the reason why people who are in this game feel so threatened by the INFJ. Because it's not just something of, oh, that person is doing their own thing, good for them, and I'm going to do mine. That's the way an INFJ sees the situation. That's how every single person who's all about, I do my thing and I respect your thing, is going to react. But those social climbers who are all about, like, I need that popularity, that's how the world works. And you have to play by those rules. You're either going to be below me or you're going to be above me. And then the INFJ comes along who, looks at it as like, okay, that's a game you're playing. Well, keep on playing it. It doesn't bother me. That makes people very, very uncomfortable. So this is one of the reasons why INFJs get disliked. And so once you become aware of that this is just how it goes, that it has absolutely nothing to do with you personally, and that you should actually see it as a strength, the fact that you don't have to play by those rules. And the fact that people react like this towards you is just one more indication that, the person who feels this way about you is just bound to that game. And it feels very uncomfortable if they see somebody who's just completely free and, doesn't have any kind of obligation to that system. So, next time you encounter something like this, just take it for what it is and, do your own thing, and never ever try to convince that person that you never meant any harm and that you respect them for who they are and what they do. You're not going to change their mind, and the only way they will give you respect is if you really stop trying to convince them of anything. You're good. You have good intentions. That this is what you care about and how you go about life. And, there's no need to try to convince somebody of that fact or to try to make other people see where you're coming from or that you're a good person. Just let them do their thing and you do yours. The third type of person who cannot stand the INFJ is the person who's really committed to rules. So people who say, I have to do certain things, how they always been done. This is the correct way. That's the only way. And I'm thriving within that scenario. The INFJ is the perfect example of a person who creates something out of nothing. We thrive in a black box. We thrive when we can create our own structures. We thrive when we can create our own rules. And so putting an INFJ in a structure that is very rules driven and whose main objective is to be as good as humanly possible in obeying those rules is something that the INFJ will never ever like. You will see it in our body, you'll see it in our, decisions and how we act and how we move through the world. And on the other hand, people who are really set out on those rules will have a huge problem with the INFJ not respecting that at all. Because this is what they believe in. This is who they are. And again, this is not to say that there is a bad or good person here or that one thing is better than the other. But if you really look at it from the perspective of people who need to obey the rules and they actually feel better about themselves because they obey the rules, and this is, how it's supposed to be. If they see somebody thriving who's just, making up their own rules, just because they want to, it's going to not get a good reaction. So don't take this personally. Just understand, okay, that's how it is. Again, the thing to do here is to not try to explain yourself, not try to make them understand where you're coming from. It's all about stating the facts. This is how I am. This is how I roll. This is how I go through life. You either accept it or you don't. And you'll actually see that people who are all about rules can accept you for that. This is different than the popularity driven kind of rules that aren't really, written down and that are more of those unspoken rules. Those rules that are really about, everybody has to do this. This is what is expected of me. Those kind of rules, and the people who are playing that game, they can accept who you are much easier. But most of the time, they will distance themselves from you because that's just not a reflection of who they want in their world. And that's okay. Again, accept it, don't judge it, just see it as a matter of fact and, a fact of life, and it's all good and everybody can do their own thing. The fourth type of person that cannot stand the INFJ is the person who is afraid to step out of the norm. So this is not just about popularity. This is not about, maintaining certain rules that are, for example, set at the workspace. This is all about doing something that will rock the boat. The INFJ is incredibly skilled at not rocking the boat, at creating harmony, at playing that game that is full of unspoken rules, but that the INFJ is so good at, and understanding of, oh, how will I act? How can I just, create a balance? How can I just add a little bit to the situation without making anybody uncomfortable? But the reason why the INFJ can adapt so easily is because deep down, we're nothing like that. Deep down, we see, oh, that's how they're doing their own thing. And, I will adapt myself to fit that mold. A person who's all about, I have to stay in the norm, they could never switch it up like this. And that's why you'll see so many INFJs have this stigma of, oh, I'm different and, there's something wrong with me and I'm not going to be accepted. The main difference between the INFJ and most other types is that we actually dare to be outside of the norm. We dare to be ourselves. I believe every single person has parts of themselves that are not like, everybody else, but they learn how to minimize them early on as just like one of their ways in order to, fit into society. They're not questioning it. It's not something that is on their mind and they know, oh, I have to adapt myself in order to fit in. And, if you would ask them, are you, molding yourself or dimming your light in order to fit in? Those kind of people are not going to say that. They're not aware of that. Like, I'm just part of the system. That's how it's supposed to be. And then you come along as an INFJ and are pretty much like this wildflower who does whatever he or she wants and goes out into the world and doesn't really care about like certain rules, because for us, we are aware of them, we can conceptualize them, but it's not something that is true to us in our core. We can step in and step out. And for people who need to play this game, because their need for social acceptance is much higher than the INFJs, they will not be okay with you being yourself. And this is actually one of the most difficult interactions you will have, because most of the time we will talk to people like this and we'll try to be, just more authentic and say, listen, like, I'm just being myself and I see that you also want to be yourself. Like, why are we playing those games? Let's talk honestly. And you will get this feedback over and over again. Like, how dare you do this? Like, how can you, try to step out of this norm? What are you doing? People are not going to tell you this like verbally, but their behavior will show it. They'll be staying in this game and in this persona that they've created. For us, it will be very obvious that it's a persona. But, the biggest mistake here is that we think we can change them. That they would be so much happier if they would just accept who they truly are. But that's just not the case. Part of their identity is altering themselves to fit into that mold. And they will never want to step out. They won't be happier if they do, because that's not who they are. And this is one of the things that I've had the biggest struggles with, that I've seen so many INFJs struggle with as well, is to recognize that leave people to be. They have the prerogative to say, I want to play by those rules. This is how I feel better. It's just on us to stop trying to make them understand where we're coming from, being more authentic, like going even deeper into vulnerability and deeper and deeper and deeper, just to prove to them that we mean no harm. Don't do that. You tried your best. You can be as authentic as you possibly want to be. If they don't want to see that, if they don't want to be more authentically them because it's actually not part of their, cognitive makeup, that's okay. Just don't spend any time thinking about convincing them. And then the fifth type of person who really cannot stand the INFJ is the self-centered person. Because you will see very often that, narcissists attract INFJs who are very often codependent. And, there is this dynamic of INFJs choosing people in their life who need more attention. Because the INFJ has a really hard time paying attention to themselves. So this is actually a very common, combination. But the truth is that at the end of the day, the INFJ knows what they're doing. They're in control of the situation. They know, okay, I'm, here for you. I pay attention to you. But when it comes down to it, and that person keeps acting in a way that doesn't make you feel good, the INFJ will step out. The INFJ will leave. The INFJ will let them know, listen, I knew all along that you needed my attention, but I'm not giving it to you anymore. See, a self-centered person needs people in their life who are in need of focusing on that person, and really to a point where they're not aware of it. Like they're going to keep doing this, and they're going to keep doing this when that self-centered person is even stepping over boundaries, not respecting, the other person's wishes and so on. And I know you might say, well, INFJs, they tend to let people not treat them well for a while. Yeah, that's true. But the INFJ still has this long-term vision of they're going to get it one day. They're going to get that I've been sacrificing for them, that I've been doing so much for them, and they will appreciate it. Once the INFJ understands that this person will never get it, the INFJ is gone. And this is a fact. And that's when that self-centered person gets really, really upset and cannot stand the INFJ and will have reactions that will make you question yourself and, will make you say to yourself, why are they really out to get me? The person that is going to be okay with that self-centered person is a person who really needs that connection. And they will do that without ever asking themselves or telling themselves, oh, they're going to understand what I did for them. And, it's never about they're going to get it. This is not even a conversation that they're having with themselves. It's just how they feel best. I need that person in my life in order to feel something, and I'm never going to expect anything back from them. They're not questioning this at all. And so if you wonder, oh, okay, but all my relationships, I've done things where I, let people overstep my boundaries, just know that it was always with this long-term vision of, but they're going to get it, right? So the misconception here is that people are going to get it. They're not going to get it. They're never going to get it. The only way they might get it is if you decide for yourself, I'm not going to do this anymore. And then you'll see, some people really changing their behaviors, and others will just find somebody else who will, pay them the attention that they need. Right? And so again, this doesn't make the other person necessarily like a bad person, but it might be one of those situations where you'll get a reaction that will make you feel this person cannot stand me. What did I do wrong? What is going on? And the INFJ really tends to look for the fault in themselves. And you really have to come to terms with that. Yeah, sometimes you might have done things wrong, but you're allowed to be forgiven. And other times you haven't done anything wrong and still going to happen. It's not about what you've done. It's just about like who you are and who they are. And it's totally okay to just have different understandings of what is right and wrong. And if some people cannot stand you, then let that be. Remember, if you want some more guidelines, how to create a life that you love and, becoming the person that you want to be and, not even looking outside of you and not encountering people like this anymore because you're so focused on this is who you're becoming, then check out the free poster on the INFJ Epic Life Formula. And if you want to go much deeper and really start taking action, then get the INFJ Epic Life audio guide. Everything you need to know you can find in the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then watch the 5 types of people the INFJ cannot stand.